What if I told you that one of the most anticipated Xbox exclusives of 2022 turned out to be a huge disappointment? That's right, I'm talking about Redfall, the open-world co-op shooter from Arkane Studios that was supposed to be a showcase of Xbox power and creativity. But instead of delivering a thrilling and immersive experience, Redfall launched with a myriad of technical issues, poor design choices, and lackluster gameplay. In this video, we're going to talk about Redfall, the game that was supposed to be one of the biggest hits of 2022, but instead turned out to be one of the biggest flops. Redfall is a game that pits you and up to 3 friends against a horde of vampires that have taken over a fictional island in Massachusetts. You can choose from 4 different characters, each with their own unique abilities and weapons, and explore the open world in search of loot, secrets, and missions. Sounds pretty cool. Well, not so fast. Redfall has been plagued by so many problems since its launch that it's hard to enjoy anything about it. From bugs and glitches to boring and repetitive gameplay to uninspired and bland graphics, Redfall is a game that fails to live up to its hype and potential. And this is not just my opinion. Redfall has received mostly negative reviews from critics and gamers alike, with many calling it a waste of time and money. IGN gave it a 4 out of 10, saying that Redfall is a mess of a game that doesn't know what it wants to be or how to execute it. GameSpot gave it a 5 out of 10, saying that Redfall is a frustrating and disappointing experience that fails to deliver on its promising premise. And Metacritic gave it 49 out of 100, based on over 2,000 user ratings. So what went wrong with Redfall? How did it go from being one of the most hyped games of 2022 to being one of the most hated? And what does this mean for Xbox fans who were expecting something better from their exclusive lineup? Let's find out. Redfall was first announced at E3 2021 as part of Microsoft's showcase of upcoming Xbox exclusives. The game was developed by Arkane Studios, the acclaimed studio behind games like Dishonored, Prey, and Deathloop. Arkane Studios is known for creating immersive and innovative games that combine stealth, action, and RPG elements in rich and detailed worlds. Many gamers were excited to see what Arkane Studios could do with Redfall, especially since it was their first foray into the co-op shooter genre. The game was also powered by Unreal Engine 5, the latest and most advanced game engine available, which promised to deliver stunning visuals and performance. Redfall was set to release in summer 2022 as an Xbox Series X, S, and PC exclusive, meaning that it would not be available on PlayStation or Nintendo platforms. This was seen as a big win for Microsoft, who had acquired Bethesda Softworks, which is the parent company of Arkane Studios, in 2020 for $7.5 billion. Microsoft had been criticized for lacking quality exclusives compared to its rivals, especially Sony's PlayStation, which had dominated the previous console generation with games like God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man, and The Last of Us Part 2. Microsoft hoped that Redfall would be one of the games that would change that perception and attract more gamers to their ecosystem. However, things started to go downhill for Redfall as soon as it launched on June 21st, 2022. The game was met some of you might argue that these technical issues are not a big deal and that they can be fixed with patches and updates. The game suffered from frequent crashes, many games have launched with bugs and glitches, as well as performance drops over time, frame rate drops, and stuttering to some extent. The game but it doesn't excuse the fact that Redfall was released in such a poor state in the first place. This is not a small indie game that was made by a few people on a shoestring budget. This is a AAA game that was developed by a renowned studio and published by one of the biggest companies in the industry. This is a game that was supposed to be a showcase of Xbox power and creativity. This is a game that was hyped for months and sold for $60 or more. This is a game that should have been tested and polished before it hit the market. And this is not the first time that Bethesda has released a buggy and unfinished game. Remember Fallout 76. Remember Cyberpunk 2077. Remember Anthem. These are all examples of games that were rushed to launch and suffered from similar problems as Redfall. And these are all examples of games that lost the trust and respect of their fans and customers. So why should we give Redfall a pass? Why should we accept this as the norm? Why should we reward bad practices and poor quality? But technical issues are not the only problem with Redfall. The game also suffers from poor design choices and lackluster gameplay that make it boring and repetitive. The game's open world is bland and empty, with little to no variety or interactivity. The game's enemies are generic and predictable, with no real challenge or strategy required to defeat them. The game's missions are dull and tedious, with no meaningful choices or consequences. The game's story is shallow and forgettable, with no memorable characters or dialogue. The game's loot system is uninspired and unrewarding, with no customization or progression options. The game's co-op mode is poorly implemented and unbalanced, with no communication or coordination tools. The game's graphics are outdated and unappealing, with no ray tracing or other next-gen features. The game's sound design is mediocre and annoying, with no immersive or dynamic effects. The game's music is generic and forgettable, with no memorable or catchy tunes. The game's voice acting is wooden and cringy, with no emotion or personality. The game's humor is forced and unfunny, with no wit or charm. In short, Redfall is a game that has nothing to offer to anyone who enjoys gaming. So what does this mean for Xbox fans who were expecting something better from their exclusive lineup? Well, it means that they have been let down once again by Microsoft and Bethesda. It means that they have wasted their time and money on a game that doesn't deliver on its promises. It means that they have missed out on other great games that came out this summer, like Ratchet & Clank, Rift Apart, Resident Evil Village, Returnal, Mass Effect Legendary Edition, Biomutant, Scarlet Nexus, Mario Golf, Super Rush, Psychonauts 2, Death's Door, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, Hina, Bridge of Spirits, Deathloop, Tales of Arise, Life is Strange, True Colors, Lost Judgment, Back 4 Blood, Guardians of the Galaxy, Metroid Dread, Far Cry 6, Back 4 Blood, and many more. It means that they have to wait longer for other Xbox exclusives that might actually be good, like Halo Infinite, Forza Horizon 5, Starfield, Fable, Avowed, Perfect Dark, Hellblade 2, Everwild, State of Decay 3, The Elder Scrolls 6, and many more. It means that they have to hope that these games won't suffer from the same fate as Redfall.